Welcome to the Restricted Handling Daily Intel Brief. This is what's been going on in China in the past 24 hours. We start in Japan, where two Japanese nationals were detained in Dalian in May on suspicion of smuggling restricted goods. On the surface, this sits in the legal and criminal lane, but the timing and context matter more than the charge itself. Japan is already dealing with a sharp reduction in rare earth exports from China, alongside broader economic pressure in sectors tied to critical materials. That includes restrictions hitting supply chains that feed into electric vehicles, advanced electronics, and defense manufacturing. This is where the pattern becomes clearer. It is not just about one detention or one export restriction. It is the layering of legal cases, trade pressure, and strategic materials control all reinforcing each other. Rare earths in particular sit at the center of it. They are not just industrial inputs. They are bottlenecks for modern military and high-tech systems. And when access tightens, it does not just affect markets, it affects timelines for entire national strategies. Now pull that pressure outward to Taiwan, where officials are openly warning that warning time itself is shrinking. That is a significant shift in language. It reflects a growing concern that Chinese military activity may not come with long buildups or clear signaling. Instead, routine exercises could transition rapidly into real operations. Taiwan's response has been to restructure drills around immediate readiness, focusing on how fast forces can move from peacetime posture into active defense conditions. It is less about long planning cycles and more about compression of reaction time under uncertainty. At the same time, China's newest aircraft carrier, the Fujian, moved through the Taiwan Strait. This is not just a transit event. It is a capability demonstration layered onto geography. The Fujian is China's most advanced carrier platform, with electromagnetic launch systems that significantly expand aircraft performance compared to earlier carriers. Taiwan tracked the movement closely using surveillance systems, underscoring how every major naval movement in the region now sits inside a constant monitoring loop. These are not isolated passes anymore. They are part of a persistent operational rhythm. Zoom out again, and Europe is now speaking more directly into this environment. Britain, France, and Germany issued a rare joint warning about Chinese maritime activity east of Taiwan. The concern is centered on Coast Guard operations, survey ships, and patterns of behavior that collectively look like an incremental assertion of jurisdiction. Beijing describes these actions as lawful maritime activity. Taiwan and its partners see something different: gradual normalization of presence in waters that are still contested under international interpretation. The key point here is that this is not a single incident. It is an accumulation of presence designed to shift expectations over time. Now layer in the economic and industrial dimension, because this is where China's leverage structure becomes much broader than maritime pressure alone. China's position in advanced manufacturing, especially batteries, continues to deepen. Companies like CATL are now central nodes in global electric vehicle supply chains and grid storage systems. The scale matters, but the strategic implication matters more. These systems are becoming foundational to energy infrastructure, not just consumer markets. And as dependency grows, so does the sensitivity around access, pricing, and technology transfer. Beijing has already begun tightening export controls on battery manufacturing know-how, signaling that this is not just an industry, it is a strategic asset class. That same theme shows up in computing. China recently achieved top placement in global supercomputer rankings with a domestically designed system built without reliance on the most advanced Western AI chips. While that performance does not automatically translate into AI dominance, it does reinforce a clear trajectory: building parallel technological ecosystems designed to function under sustained export control pressure. In other words, resilience through architectural divergence rather than integration. And then there is the messaging layer behind all of this. China is increasingly framing technology and supply chain strength as part of national security identity. That includes positioning itself as a central actor in BRICS discussions on strategic minerals, AI governance, and energy stability. The messaging is consistent. Global systems are already shifting, and countries will need to adapt to a multipolar structure where critical inputs are not evenly distributed. At the same time, China is expanding legal reach outward. A new ethnic unity law includes provisions that allow action against individuals outside China accused of undermining national unity or promoting separatism. Officials argue this is standard sovereign practice. Critics view it as an extension of domestic political enforcement into international space, particularly relevant for Taiwan-related activity and diaspora communities. Regardless of interpretation, it expands the conceptual perimeter of Chinese legal jurisdiction. Internally, China is also tightening discipline inside its defense and space systems. A senior official tied to defense industry and space administration is under investigation for serious violations. This fits into a wider pattern of anti-corruption action that has already reached senior defense executives, scientists, and military leadership. The system is simultaneously pushing technological acceleration while continuously revalidating loyalty and compliance inside sensitive institutions. Now shift to the military and security layer, where Russia enters the picture in a quieter but consistent way. Chinese naval forces recently arrived in Vladivostok for joint training and exchanges with Russia's Pacific Fleet. This is not framed as an alliance, but it is steady operational coordination. It reinforces familiarity between two militaries that increasingly share strategic alignment in opposing U.S. influence structures in the Indo-Pacific and beyond. The cooperation is incremental but persistent, especially in naval domains. In the South China Sea and wider Western Pacific, China's naval activity continues to generate friction with both U.S. and Japanese forces. During recent carrier operations, Chinese aircraft and Japanese surveillance assets operated in close proximity, with both sides accusing the other of unsafe or provocative behavior. The important detail here is not a single encounter, but the normalization of these interactions. They are now routine features of carrier deployments and patrol cycles. Further south, the Philippines reported that a Chinese floating structure at Scarborough Shoal was removed following diplomatic pressure. Manila framed it as a tactical win, but also acknowledged that Chinese maritime pressure is likely to continue. Scarborough remains a long-running flashpoint where presence, not ownership declarations, defines control dynamics. And finally, China continues to release curated footage of maritime and air encounters involving its forces, including carrier group operations where Chinese units tracked Japanese and U.S. platforms. These releases serve a dual purpose. They project operational competence while reinforcing the narrative of contested but controlled escalation. Thank you for listening and for contributing to the growth of this community. If you found the show valuable, a review or a thoughtful comment helps extend its reach to others. For more in-depth analysis, we publish a daily intel brief on Substack, restrictedhandling.substack.com, covering Russia, China, Iran, the Middle East, and the DPRK. Take care and have a great day.